And welcome back, everyone, to Who Would Win. Today's Who Would Win comes to us from Joseph McDuffie? Or McDuffle. Sorry if I made Joseph. I can never remember how to pronounce the name. But you asked the question, and this is a unique one because it's two characters from the same series. I don't normally do that, not because I don't enjoy it, because usually the request isn't for that. I might mispronounce both their names just slightly. Aoshi Shinomori and Saito Hajime from Rurouni Kenshin. Two characters, they did meet, but to the best of my knowledge, they never fought each other. In fact, one second. Versus Saito? Yeah, of the fights we have here that I'm looking up for him right now, there is no Aoshi versus Saito. Aoshi fought Kenshin twice. He fought a couple thugs at one point, like they were dishonoring his group's grave, but he never actually fought. These two never fought. So they both use actually two very different styles. The question simply just is, who would win in a fight? So Shinomori Aoshi, I believe it's Aoshi, is the leader of the Oniwaban group, at least the group he had when we met him initially. He was like 26 when he started the series. He ends at like 31, and he was the leader of the group. And essentially, what they are is they're not quite ninja. That's not the right terminology. But they do, I believe, consider themselves shinobi to some degree. That said, he's, in terms of like combat, he is first and foremost a swordsman. Now, in terms of combat, he's also actually quite skilled in hand-to-hand combat as well, being trained in the Oniwaban ninja clan. So they are part of a ninja clan. He's just not necessarily a ninja. His weapon of choice, though, is a kodachi. Now, and as we get to the later in the series, as you can see in his hands, he's got two of them. And he wields them in like a dual sheath, dual scabbard. And he has them inserted on both ends. But essentially, his style is he uses primarily defense. He uses a short sword. The kodachi is a short sword where he uses primarily for defense, while using kempo for his offense. With the exception of his ultimate technique, Katen Kempo, which, after defeating by Kenshin, he adapts a second sword. And he's also very capable of mixing hand-to-hand combat with his sword style. His physical strength is extremely high, having once knocked out Sanosuke, who's pretty durable, with one blow to the back of the neck, and later snapping a sword with only one hand in the manga. He is skilled enough to go toe-to-toe with Kenshin and nearly beat him on both occasions. And Kenshin had to at first get clever the first time they fought, and then pull out his ultimate move the second time they fought. Because of his fighting style and because of his ninja training, what he lacks for in straight power, he makes up for in actual speed, reflexes, and adaptability. He's definitely the more adaptable, or one of the more adaptable fighters in the series, simply on the grounds that he wields a two-handed weapon and is a ninja of high intellect, or shinobi trained of high intellect. Saito Hajime, I think it's Hajime, who is actually a real person. In history, he is a real person. And he's I don't know. The thing is, I don't believe there is a real Kenshin Himura in history, but Kenshin is most likely based off of certain individuals, kind of turned into one. But Saito is he was really the arch rival of the Batosai, the Manslayer, back during the war. The Shinsengumi, which I believe was the third unit of that. He was the captain of Shinsengumi. Him and Kenshin met on the battlefield multiple times, and they were ruthless, absolutely ruthless. So in terms of he's so what makes him so ruthless, weirdly enough, is that as strong as physically is, and he is physically powerfully able to knock again Sanosuke right in the air with an uppercut, and even able to probably break a neck just by wrapping a jacket around your neck and squeezing hard enough. He tried to do that with Kenshin in their second fight, or the fight we first see in the series, and he only didn't succeed because Kenshin knocked him straight in the jaw. But the thing is, even though he fights on par with Kenshin, he's actually it's his personal style, which is Shinsengumi Kenjutsu, is very simplistic and straightforward. He relies on heavy basic attacks while overall adapting to the freeform nature of the death battle as hand. So basically, he has a straightforward style, but he will adapt it on the fly and naturally. He's noted by Kenshin defeating Saito is an extremely difficult feat that cannot be accomplished by merely defeating his signature techniques. While his signature stance is left-handed, he's ambidextrous, able to skillfully switch between his stance and dominant hand at any time, and likewise battle just as efficiently with his other side. As I said, he's more than capable of hand-to-hand combat as well. Apparently, he's skilled in both Aikido, which would make sense being a swordsman, Judo, and Jiu-Jitsu, as well as maneuvering, performing quick strikes, key points. Most likely has boxing experience as well. I am also reading some of this verbatim. His style resembles that of a boxer when combined with his footwork. He is extremely, like I said, he's extremely durable and very powerful. He's very perceptive and an analytical man, able to exploit opponents' weaknesses very easily. His signature move is a refined, as it's known as, the Hirazuki technique known as Gotetsu, based on a real fighting style of the Shinsengumi. It's stated that Sanosuke that the Gototsuka stabbing power is that rivals Kenshin's Kuzuryusen. Basically, he rivals Kenshin, who is arguably one of the strongest characters in the series. Sheer force behind it is enough to even gravely wound. Is enough that even after he's gravely wounded by certain opponents, he's able to blast apart a steel door with it, admitting that it's too thick to be destroyed otherwise. So here you have two very dangerous individuals. Whoa, a little delay there. Two very dangerous individuals who are very skilled. Both have fought Kenshin. Both have at least drawn against Kenshin. Actually, that's not true. I should say not drawn, but both have gone toe-to-toe and pushed Kenshin to the limits, even as Kenshin got stronger again in the series. So these two met in a fight, who would come out on top? I think there's a couple things to note here. One, Aoshi never beat Kenshin in a fight. In fact, he never even drew against Kenshin. That's why I had to backtrack on this statement. Saito has drawn against Kenshin multiple times. So right out the gate, Saito has an edge over him and for using Kenshin as a benchmark, which I think is an appropriate thing to do to some degree. Because he's actually drawn against a guy that Aoshi can't defeat. So he's at least near, if not on, Kenshin's level in some regard. Aoshi is still very powerful, and you might even make the argument that he has a few skills over Saito. Particularly probably stealth he has over because he's from a ninja clan. Hand-to-hand combat is debatable. We just don't see enough hand-to-hand combat with Aoshi without his blades, whereas Saito we've seen multiple times the hand-to-hand combat. I would say it might be a wash, but I might give that also edge to also Saito. Durability, both these guys can take a beating, even with the blades. They can keep going for a while. So it really comes down to the question of, between swordsmanship, hand-to-hand, and analytical capabilities, plus adaptability in the fight, who would outright win. I think the initial fight with Saito using the Gotetsu as like the killing blow, I think that would not be the best move to be using against Aoshi, because Aoshi's style relies predominantly on defense and counter strikes, and using two blades makes that more difficult. That said, because Saito is so adaptable on the fly, he very well could change the outcome of the fight very easily. He could try to go in and then just adjust the blade for a strike for like a swipe instead of a stab. If he gets in close enough, he could maybe get in close, block, maybe even take a shot to like the gut, but a non-lethal spot, and then grab it and try to like break Aoshi's neck. Aoshi's skilled enough, I think, to get out of that. but it would kind of be a knocked out bare knuckle brawl after a while. Not as rough as say Kenshin and Saito. And again, this comes down to Aoshi's a benefit of having two weapons that are very different than what Saito normally would face off against. Still, I think if we're talking about adaptability, I think if Aoshi's able to get the blade out of Saito's hands, Saito would definitely be keeping at arms at a distance. He has the reflexes to keep up with Kenshin, so he's got the reflexes to keep up with this guy. I think he'd be parrying, dodging, taking minor wounds, ultimately leading him to take the final big hit, which allows him to basically grab Aoshi's Hajime and just stab him straight in the gut or straight in the chest with his own blade. If he can't get back to his sword, mind you. And even with a broken sword, I should note, even if Aoshi is somehow able to damage or break his sword, he can still use the Gotetsu and his sword style with a broken sword, because let's be, it's Hot Shots Part 2. I was watching it earlier this week, or last week, and I remember the part where Topper gets his sword cut, like the tip cut off, when he tries to slice the candle. And I know it's a comic, so he just ditches the sword and starts fighting with the phone. It's all hilarious. But in my head, I'm like, that sword's still got a massive blade on it. You can still fight with that thing. And Saito illustrates that point in his rematch with Kenshin, where Kenshin does break the sword, but he still throws it, tosses it, and Kenshin has to block it. He still gets his hand deeply gashed. So even with the sword, he can still toss the sword and use it basically as a feint, and then more or less what I think would happen here is that Saito tosses the sword, Aoshi loses sight of Saito just long enough for Saito to get his jacket up, tie his hands together, and then just get around again, just start getting him in a chokehold or breaking his something where he's basically taking Aoshi out. I think when you really break it down, the will to live and the will to live partly, but also the lack of hesitation to kill, I think is stronger on Saito's part, particularly when you're talking about, like, again, looking at that rematch they have all the years later, the first time we meet him. That is a brutal fight, by the way. I love that fight. It's such a good fight. Can't wait to actually have me and my girlfriend to start Rurouni Kenshin. I think she'll really like it. But the point is that I think when you factor in all skills plus adaptability on the fly, which he is very noted for, I say that Aoshi is still probably very adaptable based on his weapon preference, but we know there's not a lot of evidence to actually back that up. Yes, he can adapt, but at the same time, he's also very in his own ways to a certain degree. Whereas Saito is more, he has his style, his preferred style, he likes that style, but he can adapt on the fly. And I think between that and brutality and style, I think I would go with Saito. Aoshi would be a difficult opponent based on his style of fighting, though. I will give him that, especially the defensive arts of it going into the offensive arts. So, yeah, I'd probably go Saito, but I wouldn't really argue very strongly for anyone who's arguing for Aoshi either. This honestly could go either way if you were to really break this down. My mind would go on Saito. Let me know in the comments below what you think, though. Do you think it would be Saito or Aoshi? Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you folks next time. Have a good one.